Assalamualaikum and hi. In the previous video, we have learned about the file class and we look into the four commonly used methods within the file class, which are the create new file method, the get name method, the delete method, and also the exist method. In this video, we are going to learn two more classes that we commonly use for text file manipulations, which are the FileReader class and also the FileWriter class. Let's start by looking into the FileReader class. As you can see here, I have my FileReader.java, which I have created under the text file manipulations project. If I want to use the FileReader class, I will first need to import the FileReader. So here you can see I have an import statement, import java.io, which is the input-output package, and also the FileReader class. Of course, as usual, I will also import the IO exceptions class for error handling. Now I have the public class, my FileReader, which the name is exactly the same as the file which I have created. I then have the main methods here. And within this main method, what I need to do first is I will need to create the FileReader object. Just like previously how we create the scanner object and also the file object, the syntax that we use to create the FileReader object is exactly the same. So what we can do here is we're going to do FileReader, and I'm going to give a name for my FileReader object in this case because based on my code here is FR, which stands for FileReader, and they'll be equal to new FileReader. And within that, I would need to provide the name of the file. So here I'll just simply put input.txt. Now, in order for me to read from the file, which is to retrieve the data from the file, this is what I do here. So first, I declare an integer c. Okay, so it's just a name of the variable here. So we know that fr is the name of my FileReader object. And of course, I have the read method. And by now, you should know that the read method is actually belong to the FileReader object. The characteristic of this read method is that it will return an integer value. Okay? And that integer value actually represented by the ASCII code. And it will return -1 if it comes to the end of the file. That's why we have a loop here where you can see we do while c is equal to fr, which is our FileReader object, dot read, not equal to -1. Then we are going to do system.out.print char. This is a casting here. And then we have the name of the variable c here. Okay. So in other words, what this while loop do is that the read method will read each of the characters within that text file, return an integer value, and what we do here is we print the character which associate with that integer value. That's why here we do a casting. And towards the end of the file, it will return a -1. Which at that point, the while loop will stop. So once we have read the whole file and there's no more content within the file, we exit from the loop, and at the end, we just simply close the file. So now let's try to run my FileReader.java. And you will see here, it shows Java is fun. Let's learn Java together. Of course, this is from the text file which I have created earlier within the NetBeans project. So here you can see I have an input.txt here. And if you look into the contents, is in fact, Java is fun. Let's learn Java together. So now let's look into the FileWriter class. We have seen the FileReader class where for FileReader, it is to read or retrieve data from the file. Now for the FileWriter class, of course, is to write something or to store something into the text file. So here, as usual, we use import java.io.FileWriter because we want to use specifically the FileWriter class. We have a public class here, we have the main methods, and we have everything that we want to do within the main methods. So as a start, I just declare a string, my string equal to Java is fun, which is the data that I'm going to store into the text file. Here, I'm going to create a FileWriter object. So it's pretty straightforward here where I do FileWriter, the name of my FileWriter object where I put here as FW is equal to new FileWriter. And of course, within that parenthesis, I will need to put in the name of my file that will be output.txt. We have create the FileWriter object. And then there's a method available within the object, which is the write object. And I just simply write the specific string that I want to into that file. So what can I do here is I'll just run the file, okay, FileWriter. And now if I go to my project folder, you will see here the output file here. And if you open the output file, you should be able to see Java is fun. Now, if you want to straight away pass a string into the write method, that's also possible. So where here I can do, for example, Java is fun as well. But instead of writing it into output.txt, I will just put, let's say, version2.txt. And I'm going to run this again, FileWriter. And now you can see I have this output version 2 here. And similarly, you will have Java is fun within that text file. Now, of course, you can write multiple lines into a text file. So what you can do here is, I'm going to do output version 3. I'm going to write it to a new file. And here, for the sake of example, I'll do string or second line, okay, is equal to, let's learn it together. And what I'll do is I'll just change the variable's name here to first line, okay. So the first line I want to write is Java is fun, and second line is let's learn it together. I'm going to write that into output version 3.txt. Well, of course, here now I will need to call the write method multiple times. So the first time I call it is to read the first line, and the second time I call it will be reading the second line, right? Now let's run this and see what you have within output version 3. We'll go back to our folder. You will see output version 3 here. You can see Java is fun. Let's learn it together. So you can see that it's written into the text file, but within the same line here. So what we can really do is we need to do some manipulations in our code so that it can be written into 2 different lines. So here we can do, or we can add /n here, okay, to indicate that we're going to write that into a new line. So here I'm going to use a new file so that you can see the difference. I'm going to run that, and you will see here version 4 that will be in 2 different lines. Of course, I open it with Notepad, not Notepad++ here. Okay, so you have 2 different lines here. If you want, let's say you want to add a space between that, then you can just simply put a space instead of having that in 2 different lines. So it's pretty straightforward here for the FileWriter object, where the most commonly methods that we use will be the write methods, whereas for the FileReader object, that will be the read method, but we will need to use a for loop in order for us to read all of the content within a text file. One thing to remember will be for the FileWriter object, you do not need to create the file before you run the code. So basically, when you use the FileWriter objects and you run this, it will automatically create the text file for you. So I hope through this video, you have a better understanding regarding FileReader and also the FileWriter classes. Thank you very much.